Class of a full day from 9 to 5 about .NET, the RDLC reports and PRS software. Here we see Klaus pointing with his ball pen in the air, probably looking for a better Wi-Fi reception. Then we have Gary starting with his PRS session. Vieko in his 50 students classroom. This was the status last night at 12 o'clock. You see 3 hands-on labs are already fully booked. And you see our restaurant. Denmark is number 4, probably because all those Microsoft people attending or participating here in sessions and labs have the Denmark flag. July, August, fairly less or moderate number of registrations. And after 8th of September, 10th September, you see some peaks. That means after direction.
Thomas' brother, I hijacked the language and put it into Seaside. And it was not on a kitchen table, but the rest is history. First of all, on the previous conferences, we did a lot about talk about history and what happened before and the journey we made from whatever 20 years ago to now. We're not going to do that today because we don't have time. So even though this has just been a one-way release, we have even a lot more than we presented for 2013.
So make sure you get all of it. There will be questions at the end. Something about our management of the entire system. Otherwise, it's not possible to kind of do upgrade or mounting, dismounting, or whatever, taking things down for service in a automatable, scriptable way. So looking a little bit, everything will just run as it always have done. What will happen is that the application and one tenant will share the same physical database. So if you don't do anything, you will be running as you always have done and can keep doing that forever. The system will see it as a single tenant in the same database, but otherwise there'll be the object metadata table obviously sits in the application database because that is shared across all the tenants. All these commands, there will be another session where we go more into how to use PowerShell and how to do these things. I'll just say that PowerShell is not an MS-DOS prompt, even though it might look like a normal MS-DOS prompt, but it's actually all these commands return objects that you can pipe into additional commands and so forth, so not both groups. Setting up scalability in here, I'm just going to do this in 30 seconds, but it's pretty cool. You can set up, time schedule here. Looking in within this time, you should consider these scalable options. And if you look down here, kind of saying if the CPU goes above something, you should actually go and instantiate a new machine. And you see you have all kinds of sliders. If the target CPU goes below 17, you can take out a machine, and all these things can be set up in here, so you have kind of automatic scaling. It's actually, he grew the beard. That's pretty amazing.
Most amazing, I'm not able to grow a beard, so I tried anyway.
Well, no, I mean, yeah, I think you're doing okay. He bought this completely silly hat, and there he succeeded, absolutely. And I think I have to be Adam then. And that means I need to lose 50 pounds, and I couldn't do that in a week, so I kind of failed here. I think from another Microsoft side, we decided not to include it. So basically it's confirmed, and this is kind of by design.
Numbers, but is the guy with this merge something that's...
Yeah.
Ring a bell? So,
no.
But he uses nothing a lot. And
maybe he just needs some tooling. And there's a lot of reasons for that. The biggest one is when you, for instance, as you saw before in the demo, want to create a tenant. How can you verify whether you have rights to create a tenant on the system? Because the user table where you are NAV super and so forth sits in the tenant table which you're about to create. It's kind of like, Well, the only way we can authenticate you is by saying if you're administrator on the system, well then probably you actually will do the same thing as the FBK file. So we listened.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll be able to bring it. How to do this? It's extremely simple, and also on your own demo site that you can go and edit and add NAV add parts in there. You can link it to NAV. You can get the feeling that they basically translate this to this is Japanese. They have not yet translated resource files, which is why you can see that the action report is not in Japanese. But this shows that they can go in and select these different countries, Chinese and whatever, and it's all in the same installation. So this gives them a benefit that it's much easier to do these translations, but also it enables you to do much faster editing because you don't have to deal with the double byte characters and C-side. Even though C-side is not supporting it completely, you'll be able to do whatever you can do in a modern system today. Dealing with the old chunk files we had and the translation toolkit and the help toolkit in the past was also really tedious. So we decided to move to a complete new format based on HTML, which works on the different clients we have. Also navigation was not that fun. A development experience out of the box where you can just use slimmed down versions of the page you already have, or you can create Antwerp and the iStuff, and also our own tablet and phones. The wide data set we have today, but something that's hierarchical and takes up a lot less space. So Word also has a limitation. So if you start doing tables and really complex stuff in Word or expressions in there, Word will blow up and you will not get even an error message. So Word is good for really simple tables that you can put out, and also for these free flow reports, because that also enables you to do select everything and do a font change.
So the first one I want to talk about a little bit here is what we call self-contained upgrade code. This has to do with if you're doing upgrades where you kind of want to do field change table, and when the platform can run this code, it will automatically delete the temporary table, so to speak, and you're good to go, because this is part of an upgrade step only to be run when you upgrade any point anywhere. That is super powerful. It means that you can go into a system, you can do something immediately without a big learning curve.
one solution behind another, and of course
performance and the speed of me creating reports just increased dramatically. I promise that I will release these template reports on my blog, change this. So I want to have this part here. I want to have this to be Segura UI. This is not, when the group is not done.
So unless you have an object-oriented system, you cannot reuse code, you do not have inheritance. So the pattern has a...
interoperability in Microsoft Dynamics NAV. My name is Vyacheslav Babic, I'm an MVP.
It's just as it used to be, there's nothing special to do to get this new UI. It comes out automatically out of the box.
And it can be added to an NAV page, it can interact with NAV data.
On-prem, you can use multi-tenancy for other purposes, and then this, you could move. A lot of customers running the same have evolved in NAV. The single instance way here, where you have one user connecting to, or a number of users connecting to one NST on a single box, connecting to browser is kind of batch file on steroids, I think. So it's a bad file. And you can do all kinds of things. And you can actually write .NET code more or less directly inside of, or you can use .NET objects directly in PowerShell. That's probably the better way. Override information in these tables for that tenant, but we cannot give them access to override it for everybody. Right? Between those guys, because you cannot have some tables shared between the tenants. They are totally separated. So you'll probably have more problems running multi-tenancy if you use that for multiple departments, then you will get benefits from that.
Process, refactoring process that would help tremendously. Ways of coding and implementing all of these technologies. So if you're from Germany, do come to the roadshow and do talk in your organizations about that. Here's another one.
Here's the microphone. Sorry.
Here is the microphone.
So there's different levels.
Wenn du neue Felder haben willst, wir tun das alles nicht mehr in Standardtabellen, wir kaufen 50.000 Tabellen.
Type that the variable is off. .NET works like that, CL works like that, but the interoperability doesn't quite work like that, as we're going to pass into my generic. So what I do here is I pass the first type, the one that I have passed as a parameter to the method. Get last error to see what has happened. So this is the only thing what you can do. So if you have any kind of call in NAV that can fail and you want to intercept that, you must stuff that into code unit to encounter that if you didn't manually deploy it. So let's first manually resolve this issue.
I wasn't aware of it with the preview is that you immediately see that